And
Okay.
greetings, and welcome to Wachari. And we are going to be talking about this awesome initiative that is about so many things. I'm Ashina Efunyeme. I will be your moderator for tonight's show, and we hope to make this a regular occurrence. And as it goes, when it comes to introducing something, tonight is going to be all about that. It's going to be about getting to know what Wachari Nation Building is all about. Who are the people that are involved in Wachari Nation Building? What exactly is the kind of nation they're trying to build? And how can you get involved? This group of very dynamic individuals has been doing quite a bit over this past couple years to get this off the ground. The term building is not being used in any kind of fake or bogus way. They've actually been doing stuff, a lot of stuff, as a matter of fact. And that's what we're going to be learning about tonight. So I want to welcome each and every one of you as to be a part of this really valuable live session. And sure, by all means, make sure you put in the chat any questions that you might have for our dynamic panel. They're a part of the steering committee for Wachari Nation Building. And so it is my pleasure to be your host and also to introduce them. I'm going to give them the opportunity to say who they are and the role that they play in this very powerful initiative that certainly is indicating is going to make a big difference in our communities. And don't we need that, especially in a time like this? This is what we need. It's this kind of vibe, it's this kind of energy that we need. So I want to start from the mountaintop with mountain spirit. And you've heard probably this name before, and the person behind this name is a very important woman, a very strong stalwart, an herbalist, a doctor in her own right. And I will let her speak more about herself. And so I am very pleased to introduce Dr. Arzu to you, and she will be telling you a little bit more about herself. So, Dr. Arzu, tell
Yes,
our audience who you are.
yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm sitting here listening to you, seeing your beautiful face, thinking about the original dream I had, that one day we could do a show like this in Garifuna. And I'm sure that one day it'll happen, right? We'll all study hard and take some classes and bring our Garifuna up to snuff. I am Dr. Arzu, also known as Mountain Spirit. I'm the founder of the Wagia Foundation, which is the organization that's behind the Wachari Project. We've been active since 2011. We formalized the organization in 2012. That was the Wagia Foundation. And after many projects, which, Aoife, you remember one of them, the Andy Palacio Music Festival. We
Yes.
did some tree plantings in Barranco. We did some agricultural plantings in Dangriga. We've been around, done quite a few courses and plantings in PG, but our focus has mostly been returning to the land, using the land. So the Wachari Project came out of that common need that we all have as the Garifuna people looking to reestablish our generational wealth, is that we have land, and we have no money. And land is a treasure, it's an asset, but we've
Yes.
been unable to benefit from that asset. As a matter of fact, it's had quite the opposite results. It became a burden to the point where people were selling land like crazy. When I came to Belize, people were selling land. Almost every Garifuna I knew who was struggling financially was trying to sell land, and this really saddened me. But upon just really listening to people and their reasons for doing it, you really couldn't blame them, because we've been painted into a corner where we have this farmable land, but we have no way of generating revenue from it. And even if we do come up with ideas and plans to generate revenue from our lands, we have no support, whether it's governmental,
Mm.
whether it's in the house, whether it's educational. We have absolutely no support. So it's almost like an accident waiting to happen, us losing our lands. And I know that that's not why our ancestors fought and died for us to have land. So we were looking
Yeah.
for a better solution. We were looking for ideas on what to do. So the Wachari Project was formed to bring together all of the Garinagu who own land and want to use it for farming. We weren't forcing anyone to do
Mm.
anything. So we got over 100 people who registered for the program. So we started with the organization, the Wachari Organic Agricultural Association, and we set up an organic farmers market on Cerro Hill in Punta Gorda, Belize. We've had several market days, and all of this was from 2017 to 2018. And then in 2019, we worked in Honduras, in Limon, Honduras, to do the Wachari International Initiative over there. And that was just to bring in other Garinagu who were looking at what we were doing and said, hey, we want to do the same thing too. So out of that, we called for a meeting of all of the country leaders or organizations in the Garifuna territory who wanted to utilize their lands for this farming project. So what's the project? It's agribusiness. It's looking at the food and plants and useful trees that grow on our land already and preparing ourselves to see what we can get in the market, to organize it in such a way that we can actually sell our products as a nation in the market. So we're not just putting a nation together by bunching a bunch of people together. We're actually sewing and building and bringing it together with an economic basis so that we have economic leverage, so that when we go to government tables, we have something to bring to the table. So it's an offering that we, Garinagu, are making with our lands to enter into a better economic state, not just for ourselves, but also for our people. And it's also a way of saving the lands that we have by utilizing them and creating revenue streams.
Excellent. Well, you said a lot already, but we're going to talk a lot more about that,
Good.
definitely. I'm going to ask Bernadette to introduce herself and tell us a bit more about what her role is in this whole big dream that you have.
Hi,
Bernadette, welcome.
thank you. Good evening. I'm Bernadette Moody, and I don't have a specific role right now, but I'm just like all around helping Doc, backing her up with whatever she needs, as well as many of the people in the organization. So I'm here to be a support to her. And I came across this organization about a year ago when Doc was I was face on the Facebook, and I came across the Wagia Foundation, and then I saw that when she had started building it, that there was a fire and the building had burned down. And then I became more interested, and then she invited me into the meetings. I started going to the meetings, and I listened to what she was saying, and I became interested because even though I'm not living in Belize right now, my plan is to someday come back to Belize and settle down and start my farming. So this is the reason why I joined the Wachari Foundation.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to talking to you a bit more about what you bring to the table, and all that you contribute so far, because I know that you all have been doing stuff, and I'm really interested in hearing a bit more, and I'm sure our viewers are also very interested in all the various activities, because it's when Dr. Arzu spoke just now, like there y'all have a lot on your plate. There's several things going on right now, so I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to hearing a lot more about what y'all are doing. And so I'm gonna ask Marley Chatuye to introduce himself.
Biti Guyon Honsu Agabhatian, Marley Chatuye.
Well,
I'm a member of the steering committee of Wachari. And my role is to find a location in Georgetown where they will build a Wachari hub, a Lubia Wachari, which will be a hub for the Wachari Nation. And the purpose of the hubs are to do most of the works that that particular village would do, or that specific area would do. So my main task is to find a location in Georgetown.
Wow. Okay, that's excellent. And then, so it's sounding to me like
Yeah.
this is gonna involve a lot of different Garifuna communities. And is it only limited to Belize?
Well, I can clear that up for you a little bit. The project that we're working on now, and you're right, the Wachari project has a lot of moving parts. So what we're working on now is establishing a Wachari hub in each one of the Garifuna communities in Belize.
Mhm.
The other countries, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, and the United States, have also been attending the nation building webinars so that they can emulate the same process in their countries. So at some point, they will see fit to put hubs throughout their countries as well. So the entire Garifuna territory will have Wachari hubs. Now, what these hubs are just they're community centers, places where we can gather, and it's really a tribal thing because all of us remember in Garifuna communities, there was always a place where we can hang out, but to do good things, where people would rest when they're carrying their crops or maybe go there and sell some of their sweets or whatever. But we always had like a community place like that. And in our case, because we're so divided, we really needed some communication technology in our favor. So the hubs initially are places where all members will have free internet. So every Garifuna community will have a site where you can go, you can attend all of the classes. Wachari is mostly about education. And I wanted to say that about Bernadette. Bernadette is a fantastic, phenomenal educator. Her experience is in education, and she is one of the people who she keeps our steering committee steered and sane. So she's an incredibly important person. So these hubs are really those centers of operation where we can organize and coordinate as family, but they're also places where we can go to gather and communicate information through this information technology platform. They will also have nurseries and places where we can exchange seeds and maybe sample plants. And when we start producing, when there are farmers who produce crops, the hubs are also the drop-off sites for the crops where the waste station trucks would pick them up. So these hubs are multi-pronged and multifunctional, but we decided to start the project by first building hubs in each community. So they're steering committee members and some youth who are out on the hunt to find these hubs, and together working with local government, other Garifuna leaders to find the best locations where we can, the Wachari Project can go ahead and build this hub for the community.
Excellent, excellent. So, Emilio has not yet introduced
Ah,
himself. And so let's hear a bit from you, Emilio, and what your role is in this magnificent initiative.
Thank you very much, Aoife. Hello again, everybody. And those of you who are out there, of course, I'm Emilio. That's what it says on my name tag. My role is education and music. So I'm one of the pioneers who are in the, developing what we call the music industry of Belize, and furthermore, the Garifuna music industry by attacking the situation with awareness of rights and all of the laws that are associated with copyright under intellectual property. So when it comes to Wagia and the Wachari project, my role is to ensure that everything is protected and for us to recognize and exercise our indigenous rights. So that would be my role. Thank you.
All right, excellent. So then let's get into the nitty gritty. A lot has been shared already, and I know a lot of people are really curious about all the various factors, right? So we have Wagia Foundation, and then we have Wachari Nation Building, and so what's the difference when we hear the various names that you mentioned, Dr. Arzu? What what is the difference between Wachari and Wagia Foundation, for example?
Okay,
You know?
I'll explain. I understand the need for clarity. The Wagia Foundation is the philanthropic organization. That was a nonprofit that we first started to work in the Garifuna communities. And our main role was to facilitate funding and to support and promote projects that protect and preserve our cultural traditions, the ones that are based on our ancestral Garifuna values. So that's how the Wagia Foundation was founded. Our mission is based on that, and so are our articles and memorandum. What happened was, we needed a project that could sit on these values, that wasn't just a an art project or just a music project or just dancing, because we felt there was a lot of pigeonholing us into only doing one thing. And we could easily see that we Garifuna have many virtues and many values. So we started creating a project that could demonstrate those values and that could rest on those values. And the first one was our reverence for the land. And our reverence for the land is connected to our spirituality, and it's connected to our ancestors, and it's everything. So the idea to look at how we got land in the first place, and how many Garinagu actually have land, and what are we doing with it? How did it get there? And what was the reason for the proclamation? Like, what's it for? What good is it if we don't have an instrument to do something with it? So through this work with the Wagia Foundation, and in the Wagia Foundation, we realized that we needed an instrument to further refine our approach to saving our culture. So we created the Wachari Project. And the Wachari Project was always intended to become a private entity, so that whatever businesses, whatever revenue streams needed to come into our communities would be created by the Wachari Project. So
All
from the
right.
Wachari Project, the business that came out of it is the Wachari Organic Agricultural Association, and other businesses that you will hear about in the future.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So when you hear business now, it makes me think about, yes, you mentioned the valuable things that were cultural, traditional to us as Garinagu. And of course, enterprise is something that we actually held very dear to us.
Mhm.
We were always a self-sufficient people. And so it doesn't surprise me that this kind of initiative would actually build on something that was actually a part of who we were in terms of our identity. It was part of Garifuna Duo for us to be using the land in a respectful way, but in a self-sustaining way also. It was the thing that made us who we were as a people. And so I truly appreciate the focus on the land, working the land, and benefiting from the land, because that is the very thing that gave us our power as a people. Having Wachari, it was, that was our identity. It was a part of every day. That's what we did. We went to our land and we survived from our land. And so I am interested in the how you've been able to build the momentum. Who are the kind of people that you're attracting as a part of this movement? Because it's actually like, this is a movement. It's getting back to that consciousness, because we over time have lost track, and we could talk about that a bit. Why an effort like this even became necessary? Clearly we stopped living how we were used to living. And even though we can see in our various Garifuna communities in Belize and other countries that there are some persons that still go to the farm, it's not the norm, but it was. It used to be. And getting us back to that is taking a conscious effort. So your gatherings, how often are you meeting with people? How are you getting people on board to be a part of this Wachari Nation building? I don't know who wants to take
I
that
think
on, but
Bernadette, between Bernadette, Emilio, and Marley, they could definitely answer that. They are the warriors at the front line. Yeah.
okay. So take it away, Bernadette. How are you getting people on board?
Well, we're recruiting people different ways. Um, the members are going farm to farm, door to door to find other people to see what they're growing, what they're interested in growing, what they want to share. Like we have someone that's doing seaweed, we have another person that's growing different vegetables, different fruits. Some people are growing herbs, and they're going to bring the seed and it's going to be pressed into different products. So there's different way we're recruiting. At this point now, we're trying to get the younger people to come in. We're trying to get the youth to come in to join us. So that's what we're focused on now. Trying to get the young people to come in. We teach them how to plant, how to farm, how to build, and to learn all aspects, the different aspects of the program as we go along, because we want the younger kids to take over and make this their lives worth. And we're also trying to getting people to repurpose their land and using it, growing, eating healthy, teaching people how to eat healthy, how to use the crops from their land and the herbs and stuff to live, go back to the old fashioned way of living.
Mhm. Well, that makes me want to reach out to Marley now and hear what drew you to this, and how are you getting others like you? Because you look fairly young. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I'm very young.
you look quite young. So how are you getting others like yourself engaged in this very valuable effort?
I first heard about Wachari maybe like 6 to 7 years ago, right? But I wasn't involved from there. From then, I just got involved for a year now. Um, when I heard about it first, I was a bit curious because the word Wachari is in Garifuna, and I'm someone who's pro Garifuna, right? To be honest, and but I never get the chance to attend any meeting or any workshop. But lately I saw a post on Facebook which lead my attention to a webinar. So I logged in and I was accepted, and it was in my field, my kind of topic. It was talking about nation building and the values of Garifuna and Garifuna Dual. So I was like hooked on it. I stayed for a couple webinars, and next thing I found out, I was a part of the steering committee. I was asked and I accepted, and I was like, yes, this is where I want to be. Um, but adding a little bit to the recruitment process for anyone out there who want to be a part of it. There's a Wachari Facebook page that you can log into. I'm not log in, but follow, and you can send a message or leave a comment stating what you want, and you definitely gonna be lined up to what you need to do. Um, Trying to get others is our focus right now. Trying to get more people to join is our focus right now, especially the youths, because as you know, um, we have a saying which says that Garinago have been displaced and we are forced to work for someone else. But the Wagia Wachar Foundation and Nation Building is an opportunity for us to work for ourselves and make something of our land. So that's basically how I got involved with Wagia Wachari Foundation, and I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you a part of something like this. Now, when you meet your peers, right, your friends, do they ask you about your involvement in this, and how do you convince them if you've ever even tried to get them on board. How do you convince others like young like you to be involved in something like this?
Knowing the focus of our youths these days is like, I mean, not just the youths, but everyone. Most people, their focus is like trying to live. They're trying to survive, right? But I normally engage them. I normally bring up the topic about Wachari to whoever I'm speaking. I find some way to bring up the topic to start off the conversation about Wachari, and for the most part, they just listen. Like I said, their main focus is survival. I've invited a lot of people to the webinars, but I send them the link and they would never show up in the webinars. But I keep sending them. Hopefully one day they will take a shot at it. And anybody who I talk to, I tell them about it. Any Garifuna who I come across.
Any theory as to maybe why people are reluctant when you talk about webinars? Is it that people are skeptical about what they're going to learn at something? Is it that they're just not interested in the topics that will be covered? What are your theories about why people don't respond when you send out the link to them?
Like I said, most people are focused on surviving, right? When I talk to them about webinar and sitting down on the internet trying to learn something, like their mind is not on that. But we gotta just keep trying, keep trying. So a part of the steering committee, this discussion is can we strategize to get people attention to this serious initiative, because the strategies that we are using are not working, obviously, but we need to keep trying different ways, and that's what our next plan is.
I am in full agreement and support of that because we can't stop being creative and innovative, right? To get people on board. And for some people, it's just a matter of finding out what's actually going on. They're hearing these names around, but they're not really sure what's up. And it's efforts just like this, getting people in the know is gonna attract people because once they learn and hear this is what you're doing and this is why you're doing it, I think a lot of people will become interested. Now let's talk a little bit about.
Just before
Yes.
I close out, but what I can say though, our last meeting, the steering committee meeting, there was some pretty good news. So we're about to start doing some movements here and there, and I believe the movements will really wake up some people, because whenever you have movements around, that's when people say, "Oh yes, it's serious, something is going on." So we're hoping that that will be a point where people will start coming in, and we should be prepared to, you know, accommodate more people to join the Wagia Wachari Foundation.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. People like to see action, and it's when they see action that's when they become more and more interested. Do you actually have a campaign, a publicity campaign that you've planned out already, or this is just a first step? Having talks like this one, I'm going live on Facebook. Is this just your first step in developing maybe a publicity campaign?
I'd like to say something.
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead. Yes, this is one of the first steps that we are taking to publicize the movement. Go ahead, Doc.
Well, thank you, Marley. What I wanted to say is that our youth, first of all, we're targeting an age group of 17 to 37 or thereabouts. We want that's the age group that we're building for. And those are the ones we're encouraging to come into the project. But that's the age group that has been lied to for so
Mm-hmm.
long. They have been so deceived. They've been pulled into projects. Remember, that's the age group that has gone through all of the fake BS projects that have taken place in the past 10, 15 years. So they're so used to being disappointed. Number one. Number two, they're also used to projects that dish out money, which is, our biggest downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Is the way the money is managed and what happens when the money comes in. Usually the projects fall apart because by then everybody needs money. But Wachari is not about money. Wachari is about your capacity to raise money for the money to get to you, for each
Mhm.
participant to explore what they already have to create a revenue stream. That's knowledge that's not taught to us
Mhm.
in this educational system. It doesn't easily come to us. We don't learn wealth management. But a few of us got together and who work in wealth management already and put together these plans. We're doing it for our people. That's why it's called WAGI. The
Yes.
same thing we did for wealthy white people all over, the world. We decided to do for our people. So we're using our brain, our energy, to do for us. So
Mhm.
this age group that's been difficult, you can say it's been difficult to recruit, but that part is over because they're here. We have close to 100 members already. But that rough stint had a lot to do with them just being convinced that this is not another sham, that this is not
Mhm.
another disappointment, that we're not going to let them down. Marley knows I've never gave up on him, and I've never given up on any of them. And Bernadette, she's just like me. We don't give up on our youth,
Yeah.
and that's the key. That's definitely the key. Is to engage my age group to understand that what we need to do is to support the young people. We need to
Mhm.
support them. So we first originally encouraged every elder to donate an acre of land to a Wachari registrant. And that did not go over very well. That was one of the biggest falls of the Wachari project, because then the rumors got started that we were going to steal their land and we just wanted an acre of land to
Mhm.
sell it, and all of this crap went around. So there have been a few hiccups like that, but I'm happy to
Mhm.
say that we're past it.
Okay.
But it's good to acknowledge it so that we don't repeat these things.
Mhm.
All right. And we can just keep going forward. But it's definitely a good, healthy, and safe place for our young people to come and return to the land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
want to ask you, Emilia, what really drew you and what's keeping you? Because you're fairly young too.
That's what people say.
Ha!
I, I mean,
Sounds like you don't
well,
agree.
well, when it comes to the Wachari project, it has always been something that I have started. I think many of us have our own Wachari projects when it comes to being an activist in the Garifuna community, in the Garifuna Nation. So, as an educator and a musician, one of the things that I've been doing to reach out to young people and to people who are already in the industry of music, the culture and creative sector, what I have been doing since April of last year, leading up to October, I have been giving free webinars to creators to learn how to monetize their passion, because a lot of musicians and people who are in the culture and creative sector do not know how to make money, because in the system that we are educated in Belize, they don't teach us how to make money. They're normally educating us to get a job from someone else. But one of the questions that I've been asking young people is, why are you not good enough to create your own dream and make it something big, like what you see on TV? Like what I've been telling the filmmakers, I have so many years of experience watching TV that I know what a good movie should look like, or a music video, and so I will not. If I'm supposed to make one of these things, it's gonna stand out because we are exposed to many of these items on social media and on TV. So when it comes to what moves me, I think to Wachari would be investing in a generation. You're never too young to do anything for the community. And I think it's something that I enjoy doing, in ensuring that people recognize their full potential. And we need to think highly of what we do and also value our assets. Even the things that we don't think are valuable assets, they are.
Indeed. So, it sounds to me like everybody is working somewhere, doing some other things. So, how do you find time to then go to the farm to do this particular work of encouraging others to use the land, to go to the land? how do you incorporate it into the lives you are already leading? I heard you mention, Emilia, for example, that you're an educator. Like every person on this panel seems to be doing other stuff. So how do you then factor this particular effort into what you're already doing?
Before my other colleagues answer that question, Garifuna people are people who make time for what they want. So there is always time. We just have to be good at managing it, and I think that all of us are capable in doing that. What the Wachari project focuses on is that it encourages you to keep doing what you're doing, but also reveal other avenues of doing it more effectively and to reach a broader spectrum of communication network and effectiveness in reaching out to others that can possibly learn from our experiences.
Okay.
Yeah, very well put.
Who else would like to share? How do you make time for this? How do you work this into your daily schedule, your daily lives?
I think Emilio is correct. We When you have something that you value, you make the time for it. When you have something that you love, you make time for it. And people say the same thing with money. Well, I don't have money to do X, Y, and Z, but you'll find money for a manicure, or pedicure, or a weave or something. So when we really, really want something, um, we manifest a way to do it. And we Garifuna people are definitely manifestors. There is no conflict, at least in my life. But when I see that the young people, when they come in, they're encouraged to bring a piece of themselves with me. They have to connect something about that's valuable to them into the project. You don't just come into the project and suck away at whatever you can get from it. You come in with something, and whatever you come in with, that's what you build. So you learn to build on your own dream, and you have the support. But so you find the time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it becomes your passion.
Yes.
It becomes your passion. So definitely you find how to split up that 24 hours into the things that you're passionate about, so that it all becomes one thing. It's your life. It's not like it's these compartments of your life, but it is your life. But I'm interested to hear a little bit more from Bernadette. Being away but planning to come home, how are you navigating that kind of preparation? And maybe you could have some advice for others that might be thinking along the same lines.
Um, well, first thing, I'm looking forward to retirement. So I can just pack up and come home. I'm looking forward to doing that. And, putting stuff into place, like, learning how to put my money together, how to invest, how to do different things. At this point now, I have my son, my 25-year-old son. He's teaching me how to invest my money. He's like, Mom, put your money here, put your money there. This stock is good, this stock is not good. And he's teaching me how to invest in the stock market. So that's one way I'm looking forward to be able to, not to get rich, but to just come home with a little bit of money to be able to do my farming and to live comfortably. And like Doc said, it's not about money really. It's about your passion. It's about something that you love, something that you want to get into. And this has become a passion of mine. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
So, how about other people around you? Do you find that there are lots of others with that same mindset, or are you convincing others to get into it too, like what you're doing?
It's hard to convince other people because they don't believe, people are so doubtful sometimes. Oh, this is not going to pay off, is not. But you have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in what you're doing. And once you're convinced and you believe in what you're doing, it eventually pays off for you.
I agree. I agree with you fully. Well, I am really gonna applaud you for making that effort and taking that step. There are maybe others that might want to share their experiences, and we want to invite the viewers also. You could always put your comments in the chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to share your questions. We have instructions at the top so you know that your name can be shown. So we want to thank those who are already on. I see Morris, I see Anige, Olga, Desiree making comments and basically congratulating all of you for the work that you're doing and agreeing with a lot of what you've already shared. And I want to go back to the webinars because maybe now that people are hearing about the webinars, they might actually start to tune in to the webinars. So tell us about the start of the webinars and what are the things, the topics that are covered in the webinars.
Okay, the webinars are every Tuesday at 6:30. It runs about 2 hours. And the first lesson we learned about the different herbs. Dr. Arzu taught us about the different herbs, how they're used, how, we use them for healing, for spirituality in the Garifuna nation, and everything that we need to do. We're also going to be teaching about financial, we're going to have some financial classes, teach you how to save, how to manage your money. We're going to be teaching the technology classes. We're going to be teaching, having different classes. So in order for you to come into the organization, there's a lot of support and there's a lot of classes that there's going to be taught so you can learn how to get into being sustainable, helping yourself to be able to survive.
So the question coming from Desiree Pasquale, is it open for anyone? How do you get involved and is there any cost? So if I want to be a part of any of those webinars, how do I get the link? Do I just go and like the page and then I'm going to get the link? How does that work?
Yes, you go into the link is put up every Tuesday afternoon in the Wachari Foundation Facebook page.
So Wachari Organic.
The Wachari Organic page, Wachari Organic Agricultural Association page.
Right.
And you could just click on the link. You're welcome to come in and see what it's all about. There's a lot of teaching going on, a lot of learning going on, and it helps you to understand what we're doing. And, if you're interested to join, you could come.
Excellent. I think that's a welcome, to know that it's open and people can come in, get a sense of what it's all about and learn as well, because it means that it's not restricted to just a particular set of people. That anybody, once you get interested, now you're here, you're seeing this live and you're hearing about it and you're interested, you could just go like the page and then you can be a part and start to benefit almost immediately, not just from this discussion but being a part of the webinars every Tuesday. And see, this is Monday night, so that means that people who are tuned in now can actually get to be a part of tomorrow's webinar.
Yes.
What's going to be discussed tomorrow? Any idea what the topic will be tomorrow?
We're doing products and supply chain. It's important for our people to understand that, let's say, if you have a tree in your yard, a mango tree, and imagine how many mangoes that produces, even if it's something like 100 mangoes, and you put a price on that mango, you have, that's how much how much revenue you can generate from that tree. So it's getting people to start looking at what our land produces, the different things that grow naturally that we take for granted, and seeing the value in them, not just nutritionally and usury, but also the market value and the trash value as well. The trainer does something that's called circularity. So we look at the crops that grow on our land from beginning to end, to how you can utilize the trash, return it back to the environment. And all of the training is based on permaculture and organic standards. So you're learning our traditional way of farming. It's really traditional Garifuna farming, only with the certification of the permaculture standards and all the different things rules that Europeans made up. for us to follow. But it's really a return to the land in the most noble way. So when you attend the webinars, you're sitting with elders, you're getting wisdom from different experiences. You can ask whatever questions you want. You can sign up for different courses. If you have a particular business that you're interested, that's in alignment with the one that we're doing, you're welcome to come on in. You can submit your proposal. It's just help. It's just help. Think of Wachari as a fairy godmother or fairy godfather. It's where we can go as Garina go and actually help each other, which I know is an
Mhm.
anomaly, but this is who we are. This is really who we are. We're people who help each other. Our mission, our whole statement is Aubu Amurnu.
Mhm.
That's it for Wachari. It's I for you, you for me, but also I for the land and the land for me. It's this symbiotic, mutually
Mhm.
beneficial relationship that we want to foster, not just between us and the land, but also between us and us. Because
Yes.
it's missing there too. So we have a rule. We have rules in Wachari where we treat each other with perfect kindness, very respectful. We don't sink to the lower levels that our people are used to or become used to resolving conflict. We choose not to resolve conflict in that space. We look for solutions, what we can do and what we can do better. That's
Mhm.
Wachari.
Mhm. So I see Miss Pasquale is very interested, and she mentioned urban farming, urban gardening. There are a lot of people living in urban spaces, even in Belize. So how do you balance that? Is it are you encouraging for people to get into planting at least at first? Let's say you don't have farmland, you don't have that acre, but you live on a portion of land. So is there guidance on how to start small, how to start to plant a garden even on your veranda?
That's
Is
exactly
there are there lessons on that?
that's exactly where the hubs come in, because the needs for each community will be different. You have different kind of soil, different kind of layout, and those little gardens, we call them the victory gardens. That the hubs will be able to tend to that within their own community. So you can take a course, a hands-on course, right there in your community. We do have them online, but we want community to build around it as well. So yes, we definitely encourage backyard gardens. Grow as much food as you can around you, but even pretty things and flowers. There's also that spiritual part to it, of that we should be touching the land. We should be relating to it and doing things that make us conscious of having land. So everyone is encouraged to touch the land in some kind of way.
Excellent, excellent. So now you had mentioned the webinars are going on, and what's the next step for Wachari Nation Building? What are the plans for 2021, for example? Do you have maybe a strategic 5-year plan, 3-year plan? Right now, yes, you're encouraging people to get involved, and you're having your every Tuesday webinars. But what else? What's next?
Well, the 1 year plan is definitely to build the hubs. There's a main one that's going on Cerro Hill in Punta Gorda, and that one is going to contain a larger facility, the demonstration farm, as well as a processing center for some of the oils that we're going to be producing and whatever other products we're going to be producing. We needed a center of operations. We plan to have a similar center in Dangriga and in Georgetown and in Belmopan as the needs of the communities arise. And that's what we're looking at right now. And that's why Marley has secured the Georgetown site, and we're putting together all the bits and pieces to make that happen. And you're going to see that happen relatively soon. Um, we have 5 sites that we are building throughout the country, and those sites are going to serve the purpose of bringing this information, classes, plants, seeds, hands-on knowledge to the communities. So with a combination of hands-on and what we will be providing online, either through Zoom or a StreamYard or whatever other means, um, together we're making it happen. It's a win-win situation. So you walk out with more than what you walked in with. Where did I go?
Yes, sorry about that. It's Wachari Organic Agricultural
Agricultural Association.
Association,
Yeah.
because I see in the comments a question on that. So it's Wachari Organic Agricultural Association. Is that's what you look for on Facebook, and you can like the page, and then you get to then access the links for the webinars, and then basically whatever activities are going to be taking place would be also posted there, and people can then join the organization as well. So and then how to get involved in the hub. So once you join and start to attend the webinars, it's at that space that then the hubs get established. Like I could say, well, I'm living in Dangriga, so how do I get to be a part of the Dangriga
Well,
hub? If I live in PG, how do I get to be in the PG hub and things like that?
that's where it becomes necessary to come to the webinars, because we're sorting that out now with the onslaught of COVID and COVID compliance. We've had to make several adjustments and changes, and it would be a lot smoother if people just came to the webinars. And you can ask that question there: how do I hook up with the hub where I'm at? That's really the best place where we can get this information back and then determine if there's a need for a hub there, because we can't decide. My dream is to have a hub in every community, but we don't know if a community would be burdened by a hub, or actually if it would be an asset for them. So we really want it to be an asset for them. One of the things we forgot to mention is we do have a web page. That's wagia.org. You can go on wagia.org. There's a drop down menu with all the projects that we've done in the past, and one of them is Wachari. You can look on the Wachari Project. There's also a form there where you can join the Wachari Project. So there's a membership form
Excellent.
on
Excellent.
wagia.org. Yes.
I just like how open it is. I think that's typically Garifuna too, even to a fault sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do you then weed out any any kind of negative energy if people come into the space and then you find that maybe they are too focused on the commercial aspect
Mhm.
rather than the community building, the environmental consciousness aspect? How do you then sift through those type of discrepancies that could arise? I mean, we're talking about people, and they might be attracted initially because of how it sounds, but then when they come ideologically, there might be a conflict. So how do you then deal with that?
Bernadette.
She's picking on you, Bernadette.
Yes, she is. Yes. Okay, that's where with the steering committee comes in.
Mhm.
There are just a few people, a handful of people that's on the steering committee, and it's our responsibility to look at these people, see what they're about, learn about them, and if we think that they're not really in there for the organization, then we just invite them to leave, because it's not a quick a quick get rich scheme or anything like that. This is going to take a long time, and everybody in here is in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
So it takes time. It's going to take some time. You come in, and don't think that 6 months from now you're going to be rich. That's not what it's about. We have to do the building. We have to get together. We have to decide what we're going to do. And it's good to get in on at the ground floor,
Right.
and
Right.
you
Yeah.
learn from the beginning what we're doing, what it's all about, how long it's going to take for you to see a profit maybe from your crops that you're bringing in, but it's going to pay off. So it's not something that you're going to come in overnight and get rich and think you're going to make a lot of money in the beginning. That's not
Right.
what it's about.
Excellent. Well, it's good for that to be made clear, almost immediately, because I think people oftentimes come into things and they're in it with their own conceptions,
Hmm.
and oftentimes their own misconceptions. And that's what I like too about the space that you offer, because people can come into that space and then ask questions
Hmm.
to get things clear, rather than walk away with any confusion, or hearing a version of the thing and then coming to their own conclusions, which happens a lot.
Mhm.
People hear about something, they come to their own conclusions, and then they run away with the conclusion they've come to, even if their conclusion might not be actually accurate. So the space also offers that. I think that there's more dialogue, and you could actually get that kind of clarification if you're not sure where it's going. So I'm glad that it's set up in that way, a kind of communal sense
Yes.
of how you operate. No, that's I like that. And how do people get onto the steering committee? Is this bureaucratic? Is this a bureaucratic structure? There's some uh
Let me give you the standard.
elections or yeah.
First of all, we have standards. The steering committee is comprised of the frontline fighters who have been there from the beginning and for the long haul. They've never asked for anything. These are people who came with something substantive to put on the table. So
Mhm.
they are carrying the project. They deserve it, and they protect the project, and I totally trust them. So with all of those qualifications, that's what comprises the steering committee. These are people I can turn my back on and they would still do the right thing. So the steering committee is a very, 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 very special group of people. And the only reason this project has gotten any traction is because of the steering committee that we have. They're representatives of the age groups. We have different age groups. We have different genders, different professions. Um, People who represent the different pieces of our collective nation so that every aspect of our nation, every population, every demographic of our nation is represented in our steering committee. So it's not something you aspire to. You make it into the steering committee by virtue of what you have done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I mean, this sounds exciting to me. And I think it would be that way for a lot of people that hadn't heard about it before, or maybe only heard a bit about it, and now they're getting all this information. I wouldn't be surprised if your webinar is packed. How many people usually turn up on your Tuesday evening sessions?
Well, we've been staying between the 30 to 50 range, right? But it's mostly been, it hasn't really been passing 30 that much.
Okay.
We'd had some 40 pluses. So between 30, 35 and 50 in that area. But there's a whole population out there that is curious, they want to come. Um Maybe they're scared, I don't know, but
Arzu,
I'm
uh,
go ahead.
I think that the membership, well, the people attending the Tuesday meeting is a result of how we have been. I think we need to be more, how do you say it, informative when it comes to going back into the communities and letting people know that something exists that you can turn to.
Mhm.
I think that the pandemic has taught us to go back into our survival mode. And this does not mean that we're not supposed to exercise the highest level of being mindful. Because every time when there's a good initiative, if an individual doesn't see the need of how they can benefit immediately, sometimes they don't pass on the message to their membership. And I think this is an issue among many Garifuna organizations, whereby information is not transmitting effectively. And this is why we are here today, to ensure that everyone out there who is listening, even if you listen to this recording after this moment, you're going to be informed. And my advice to you is to tell the next person, your neighbor, let them know that it's important for us to become self-sufficient, for us to have our economy on point. That needs to be established.
All right. I really agree with you, and I appreciate what you've shared. And when it comes to doing the actual planting and things like that, even the establishment of the hubs, is that gonna involve then like the steering committee essentially visiting communities to set these up, or is it that you just learn about it in the webinars? How does that actually work?
Those hubs were what Wachari started in 2017, in January of 2017. So that's a few years that we've been looking at properties and different communities and gathering statistics. So the need for the hubs was established way back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a matter of getting abuti for those hubs, because we have people, the need is there, the space is there, but getting people to take responsibility. Everybody wants a check on the front line.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's like if you have to sweep your house, but you also need $5 to buy a broom, you got a problem.
Yeah.
So we're offering, you know, to help a community, but they have to do their, they have to come in with something as well. See, other
Yeah.
projects in the past would just go into community and say, here, let me help you. Let me give you this. Well, we want
Mm-hmm.
interaction.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know that something good and substantive is going to happen behind this effort. We want to
Yes.
know that when we come back with more money, we're going to go to the next level, not repeat the same level that
Mm-hmm.
we just
And
did.
get people to have a sense of ownership too,
Exactly.
because then there is continuity when people have that sense of ownership, as opposed to, the sporadic projects that come and go, and that they're so ephemeral, they're short lived, and then that's it. You want sustainability. So when people feel that sense of ownership, then you could definitely see it continuing. I see you nodding, Emilio. Tell
It's
us your
true.
thoughts.
Well, I just think that when, like, I've seen many people, like, when it comes to us finishing with school, many people are applying for jobs, but if they don't find one, then what? And I've seen many sat down, and I think that there are two things that happens. When we create a job, we can create a job for yourself, or you can create a job for yourself and others. People don't normally think that when you when you have a passion or a skill, and you go by the neighbor and you do something that's creating a job. So the simple things are the things that transcend into something, into the greater ones. And so the Wachari project is more than just agriculture, because that would be the basis of the project. However, there are many things that will come when it comes to our economic situation among the Garifuna communities. And this is something that I wanted to highlight a couple minutes back, because it's not just about agriculture. There are so many things that will come out of that. There are so many products that you can generate from the products that we grow. And this is one of the reasons why the hubs are important, because there are a lot of training and information that will be there, and also the products that will be sold by the producers of the communities. These hubs will be one of the locations that you can find these products for distribution or to even purchase.
Right.
Excellent. So then, essentially, we could look forward to seeing some sort of marketplace in each of the communities, because that's something also that's lacking. It's almost like we we step so far away from the farm that we're also not the ones on the other side when it comes to the selling of our products.
Right.
It's other people that are selling products, and we're going there to buy, and
Right.
not enough of us are the ones selling. When we used to dominate markets, I mean, just think about any
Yeah,
of our communities. In fact, even, I mean, I think about where my mother is from, which is Barranco, and how many, I mean, my grandparents went to PG with stuff from Barranco to sell in PG,
Mm-hmm.
and the same way, people came from other Garifuna communities and went into Belize City to sell products. So getting us back into that, at least making sure that we're the ones selling products locally in our communities. We can think about and talk about the marketplaces in Belmopan and in Cayo that are so grand and have so many products and people selling their products, but where are ours? You
yeah,
know? So it's getting us to that, back to that. So is that what we're looking at? Eventually seeing our communities having our
yeah.
marketplaces again.
That's
Sooner than you
correct.
think.
That's correct, because we are more consumers than producers. And even when it comes to me doing my bit in the music industry, I would always, when it comes to me interacting with a new client, or my students in the online classes, I would ask them questions like, "Are you a producer or are you a consumer?" Because we've been consumers for so long and we're not ready to make money. If we want
Mm-hmm.
to continue with that in that process of not making money, and the only way we can have more control over the situation in the communities is if we assume or establish our independent situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because depending on the government is fine for many, but in reality, we're the
It's
ones who
not
have
the
the
ideal
power.
situation.
we
Yeah.
need we need to establish that kind of mind frame, because we're the one that actually hold the powers in our hands, but we think that we're not good enough to exercise this power, and this
Mm-hmm.
is what we need to change through example. So each person on the steering committee and even those who attend the Tuesday meetings, we are the people who are supposed to be modeling this kind of notion to the other generation and for those who are watching.
Mm-hmm. Marley,
Yeah.
what have you planted so far? What have you produced? Do you have any tangible outcomes thus far to talk about, to exemplify how being a part of Wachari has been meaningful for you personally?
Yes, before joining the Wachari steering committee and the webinars, I have always planted like cassava, plantain, cocoyams, sweet potato. I like planting. That's the
Mhm.
reason why I really like the Wachari Wagia Foundation. So like it was easy to me to connect to the movement because
Mhm.
it's in me.
You're already doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're already doing it. And are there a lot of others like you in your community also going to the farm and growing their own food?
Yes, I do see people planting in their yard, in their backyard. I do see plants there, and I always encourage them to keep planting, look for different varieties, and expand your garden. Look for new plants because the soil is so rich. You can basically plant whatever can grow in Belize, and it will grow here
Hmm.
in Georgetown.
Yeah.
And you see, I think COVID, this is one of the blessings of COVID, right? Because we were moving so far away from the land, and then COVID essentially forced us to to think outside, like we really had to become a bit more creative. And I think one of the things that drew people to the land and to gardening was, for example, our traditional herbs. So if people weren't attending or taking care of the fever grass and the vervine and the sage, they started to do that. They even started to plant those in their yards because they became necessities. If we were gonna survive COVID in any way, we could turn to our yards and the very traditional things that we're used to
Mhm.
being able to just go into the yard and cut a piece and put in the pot. So I think that's one of the things that, even though Wachari has been around for since 2017, I think COVID has provided that extra jump
Mhm.
for people to get involved in an initiative like this, because we can't avoid it now. Growing our own food, it was something that people had to start doing in the face of being on lockdown, for example, in the face of losing jobs, in the face of possibly getting infected and having to take care of yourself and others. And so I see that as a big blessing. I don't know if that has come up in your discussions, but I think that that's one of the pluses of COVID. People
Yeah.
could talk about all the bad parts, but I think that's one of the good parts, that a Wachari effort could actually be successful. And under COVID conditions, so many people could be involved in these type of discussions and then actually be planting stuff and talk about it and learn too about new products. I mean, anybody, you can you can say what you think about that.
We have the time, Bifa. We have the time to do all that we wanted to do when we said we did. We never had the time. So we need to find or make the time to learn new skills, to spend more time reading. And if you don't like
Mm-hmm.
to read, watch a bloody video on YouTube and
Mm-hmm.
acquire a new skill. So it's important for us to stop making excuses not to do things that are good for us. Because I think that if you walk out of this pandemic the same way you walked in,
Mm.
then you really didn't learn the lesson. It's like
Mm-hmm.
when you're dealing with Bob Marley. I'm not talking about Marley in the, but Bob Marley, he mentioned a lot of things, and people didn't get the message. And many of our prophets, they had so many messages. We enjoyed the speeches, and we felt so good. But then the action needed to follow for us to assume the situation of community, because we have lost the essence and the value of community. We talk about it, we talk about culture, and we talk about many of the things that we practice. However, those things are just discussion. And that's why I am not really so impressed by when people tell me things. I want to see it in
Mm-hmm.
action. And that's what I love about the steering committee, because all of us in the steering committee, we are no nonsense people. We're on the ground working, whether people know it or not. I spend a lot of my time being in the background, so I don't like to be in the forefront, but I'm always in the background working and investing in other people to ensure that they exercise their full potential.
Yeah.
And we have a situation right now in Dangriga whereby there are some community initiatives in planting. I know about a couple of them, but I think that we have to communicate more with each other so that we understand
Mm-hmm.
and know what's happening in our community. I think we're very disconnected back home, and we need to change that now more than ever. So my advice to everybody is to put your differences aside when it comes to conflict and think about the bigger picture. We don't have time for working against each other because we're defeating ourselves.
Mm-hmm. You have
Yeah.
said, man, you have said it all there, because the thing that ought to hold us together is Wachari, really and truly. Um, when I think about the stories my grandmother told me, people went to the farm together. They cleared land together. They planted together. They harvested together. There was so much that it helped to build that sense of community. So when you think about us walking away from our land and walking away from those traditions, no wonder we face so many of the social ills that we've had to deal with, because we have walked away from our foundation, the very things that kept us together, the very things that sustained us, we lost once we walked away from the land. It was everything for us. We lived from it, we lived on it, we lived with it. It was, we were one with it, and it was one with us. We could not live without our lands. So even the notion of now staying away from the land is to me, it's that speaking to some kind of being lost, if you can't see that what the Ahari have shown us is we have to go back to the root. We
Yeah.
have to go back to the land. That is how we will survive, is by going back to the land. So I I hope that more and more people are encouraged, are moved to do exactly that. And if we are focused, I mean, I'm thinking, right? I could be growing something here in my yard, and then somebody else could be growing something else and something else and something else. That's how we build our marketplace, because now we could be trading with each other,
Yeah.
and that's how we can build our wealth. you know we might say it's not all about the money, but it is in the sense that we have this wealth.
Yeah.
we have it where we don't recognize it. That's what needs to be fixed. We are poor because we keep overlooking our opportunities. That's what my sister said. Poor means people overlooking opportunities repeatedly. So we are poor because we are overlooking our opportunities. But imagine if we would just not overlook anymore, but start to tap into those opportunities. That's how we're going to build our wealth. So there's something, we're walking on gold.
Yeah.
We're really walking on the gold. And so we need to be conscious of that now. And where there is underdevelopment is something I like to say, there is opportunity. So yeah, people might have been ignoring us all the while, or they have done things that have negatively impacted us. But if we wake up and now hold on to what it is that we do have and make the best of it, then we then have ownership of our wealth. It no longer becomes something that people exploit and take advantage of us. Now we are that are making that money for ourselves. So this this is a big plus. This is definitely the way to go. And I'm expecting tomorrow's webinar to explode with participants. Now that you're out, because essentially you're out now. You know, people are on. You see so many comments right now in the chat. A lot of people are interested in this kind of discussion, and I'm hoping too that as we continue talking, we can start to see videos and images of what's actually being done, because indeed, just like Marley mentioned, and I think Emilia too, people like to see action. They want to see things in motion. They don't just want to be hearing, talking. So is there a specific kind of product that Wachari is pushing? Are we only looking at the traditional Garifuna foods? Are we only looking at the herbs? What's the vision when it comes to what people are planting and what you're encouraging people to plant? Maybe Dr. Arzu want to take that one up?
I was going to call on Bernadette.
Calling me, why don't you?
Bernadette.
We're pushing food, we're pushing herbs. That's why we're trying to bring the young people in. We're trying to teach them a sense of community. We're trying to teach them come back to a sense of spirituality, a sense of using the earth, coming back, growing stuff, and to learn to, be sustainable. Do for yourself instead of going out there. Keep the money within the community. We're trying to get them to keep the money within the community, turn it over, help each other, and to come to a sense of coming together. So that's the biggest thing. And
So,
we
Okay.
also to get our young people to come back to the morals, stuff that they were taught that they have lost. Gain a sense of morality within yourself. And there's different aspects. There's food. No, we're doing clothing. We're doing food. We're doing Garifuna music. We're doing. Some people might be making coconut oil, different oils, different things that you can do. So there's limited. It's unlimited to the whatever you could come up with. Whatever you could come up with that's within what we agree upon, then bring it. We're welcome. We're open to it.
Um,
So yes, go ahead, Emilia.
to add on what Bernadette just said, when it comes to the Wachari Project, what we're looking at mostly is to be utilizing the resources that we get, that we have, that we grow. And that means that from a single plant in Belize that you grow, you can get so many products. And one of the things that we have discussed in one of our meetings, well, actually, a number of our meetings, is a word that you mentioned earlier in the meeting, innovation, because there are so many things that we can do. So we want to engage in research and also workshops in teaching people how to also do research of their own, but how to get the most out of a single crop, a single plant. And that is one of the highlights that I think that I believe that I know that Wachari will take the lead on, because there are many things that we have access to when it comes to our natural resources back in Belize. It is countless. And from my experience of traveling, I have seen so many products that are so simple, and I think that, man, if I had the opportunity to multiply myself, I would probably be all over the place teaching people how to take advantage of what they have in their backyards.
Many people have come into our communities and produced products from our supply chain, and
Mm-hmm.
they have failed because they were not authentic. They were not authentic. There are a lot of Garifuna products on the market, and when you follow that dollar down to the root, it's not Garifuna, and it's a problem. We can't blame our people for getting involved in the selling and reselling, but one of the things we're learning with the Wachari webinar is to follow the dollar and look at it in a way that you can see where it's ending up, where's most of your money going. And it's turned out that within our community, what Jerry just said it at the last meeting, in our indigenous community, the money circulates maybe 2 or 3 times before it leaves. In a real community, a sustainable community, that money should circulate between 13 and 15 times in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And this is wealth in the community. So that's what we're trying to reroute the revenue connected to our own supply chain, so
Mm-hmm.
that our first act in acquiring something isn't a dollar going out. It's
Right.
using what's already in.
Well, that's why I think the financial literacy sessions are also very important, because, and that's when I say it is all about the money, because I think that we've lost our wisdom when it comes to money management, how to build our wealth. Being consumers is very expensive, and it has caused us to live beyond our means. Being consumers has caused us to be dependent. Being consumers has caused us to end up with all these health issues, because we're not in control of what we're consuming, because we're busy buying from others instead of producing for ourselves. So there are all these ripple effects of that. While if we are going back to living how we used to live, what were our traditional ways of living and growing
Mm-hmm.
food and so on, we're gonna be able to manage those illnesses better, because we might not have so many of them anymore. But as long as we are not in control of what we're eating, then we become what we're eating, and it's poison, because it's not what we're growing. You see?
Yeah.
You are what you eat. And so if you're growing something and that's what you are, you're gonna survive. It's gonna be better because you're taking care of it. You're making sure that it's not poisons that you're putting into the ground to grow this particular food or that. But when you are getting it out of the can, out of the package, or from someone else, you don't know what they're doing when they're growing it. And so that's what you're putting into your bodies. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we have made,
Yeah.
because once we lost control of our food production, we lost control of our health.
All
Our
right, Eva.
people,
Um,
yeah, go ahead,
if you-
Marley.
if if you look at it, what you eat, if you look at what you eat and what you get out of it, if you compare it to what you grow to eat and what you get out of it, and what you buy from the store to eat and what you get out of it, growing your own food is way better than purchasing your food from the stores. And when it comes to the financial part of it, like Miss Dr. Arzu said, the money circulates 2 or 3 times and it leaves the village, leaves the community, and it's obvious because you work, you get paid, you go to the store, and the money is out of the community again. So
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, so producing our own products and growing our own food, you'll save money. And if we're selling our products to our people, the money stays within the community, which can be used to develop the community
Mm-hmm.
instead of having the money leave the community. And and the webinars that we are having, all these informations are given to you for free.
Yeah.
And the information are connected to our Garifuna values in some way, because whatever we are taught at the webinar can be used to develop our people if you would connect it to a Garifuna value. That's what I'm sure about.
Wow.
Excellent. Yeah, that's very profound what you shared right there. And indeed, I mean, like I was suggesting earlier, just imagine being in a community and one particular person is make growing cassava, another person is growing sweet peppers, another person is growing uh garlic or onion or whatever, lettuce, whatever, okra and so on. And
Mm,
then we start trading that with each other. That's how the resources remain,
yeah.
because if we are going to buy it from somebody that went and bought they went and bought it from somewhere else, that's how the money leaves.
Yep.
That's how the money leaves. While if we are growing it ourselves, I mean, I'm thinking about this hub. The hub stays in my mind. That if we have this hub, I'm looking forward to being able to call in an order to say
Yeah.
the $100 that I want to spend on vegetables, I want it to be from Garifuna farmers. And so I want to buy all my green banana, all my plantains, all my okra, all my everything from a Garifuna farmer. That's I'd like to spend my money in that way in my community, or be able to take. I might have an abundance of sweet peppers and I want to be able to take that to a marketplace right in my community and it be sold to my people, you know? And this isn't impossible. I think
Yeah.
this is a dream that can become a reality in a couple of years. This doesn't have to take 10 years. This could happen soon. As long as we are serious about it, it can definitely happen. And what I see too happening with these seminars, the webinars, sorry, is that it does help to change the mindset, because it's
Start from
about
there.
changing the mindset, right?
Yeah.
It starts
Definitely.
from there, Ifa. And I mean, our people have always been a wealthy people, because
Yeah.
when sometimes I listen to young people expressing that Garifuna is a rich culture, but they we don't have a big sense of where that came from. And
Mm-hmm.
what I used to tell people is that money has always been in our culture, even before the physical money, because money is just another word for value. And when we have our discussions in the Wachari meetings, we always emphasize on the values to identify what they are and how we can monetize them and how we can use them instead of using actual physical money, because the more we grow, the more we make, the more we have available to trade among each other in the community, the less we have use for money, and we
Yeah.
will be applying money when it's necessary. But this is one of the things that people are not being taught in school, what money really is. You should have an entire course just about defining and talking about money. That is a course by itself. There are many of the simple things that we talk about on a daily basis, but we don't emphasize on what they actually are. And I think that would change the perception and the attitudes of our people when it comes to moving forward in what they do in exercising their passion and also monetizing it in order for it to be something grand in the future. And that future could be in a couple of months, in a couple of weeks. But
Hmm.
we're the ones individually and as a community who will determine when that will happen based on our actions.
That's why I talked
Very
about this
valuable.
being all about the money indeed, and us being money wise, because we stop being money wise when we are so consumer focused, and then we keep losing the money. When Dr. Arzu had talked about how many people this pattern of selling our lands and selling our lands cheaply
Hmm.
and selling our lands away from us, because depending on who we sell our lands to, it's not coming back.
Right.
We will never have it again. And that means it's not just you who sold the land that loses the land, but then future generations lose the land too. You see? And that is where we don't have where our wisdom went down the drain because we did not get the value for the land. If we knew that, we wouldn't have even sold it in the first place. You know,
Bingo. Yep.
if we knew the value of the land, we wouldn't sell the land. And so a lot of people, that's a consciousness that we need to fix too. And some of us have abandoned our lands. And imagine looking at our lands, these acres and acres of sources of oxygen. That's a precious commodity, oxygen, and calling it bush.
Hmm.
But you know, there are lots of people that are coming to take that oxygen away from us. And oxygen is something that we need for our survival. So how do you look at trees, look at plants and treat it as if though it's not important when our lives literally depend on it, you know? So it getting back that mindset, I think more and more discussions like this definitely have to be happening, especially for the young,
Hmm.
so that they can think in that same way and therefore act upon that kind of ideology. So I say keep doing this. Don't stop talking to the people. Don't stop sharing this information and even getting the information to a younger audience even, because they're gonna be the warriors, and some of them can start being the warriors at 5.
Yeah.
As long as they can put a seed in the ground and water it and
Yeah.
watch it grow, you know. Then imagine a 5-year-old growing up from that, from being 5 to 25, growing stuff. Just
Yeah.
imagine that person,
Even
that
in
boy,
the
that girl.
even though we will have a hub in Dangriga, for example, um, we will still have, remember, we have some groups in Dangriga, some youth groups. Instead of creating more youth groups, we will just target them and go in or invite them to the hubs or visit them,
Right.
to let them be a part of. Because one thing that I've always told people who organize things in Dangriga is to involve the students from the schools, community service, let them be a part of the community, because this is going to go a long way in the future. But one of the things that we are going to be doing in the outreach is to target young people in schools, in these youth groups, to let them be a part of building. Because I think that we are not building, we're mostly interested in just allowing things to be how they are, and we are not even happy about it. But we
Hmm.
have to do something about it, and that is the direction that Wachari is heading right now.
Wow. Well, I know I'm not the only one excited about that. I am sure I'm not the only one excited about that. This is looking quite promising, and I want to implore you to stay the course. Stay the course, because I think that a lot of times there are things that come and distract us from our movements. There are people that knew, they recognize the power of our unity, of our solidarity as a people, of our mindset as a people, and they came and destroyed it so that they could make money off of us.
Right.
If we're not thinking the same way that we used to think traditionally, that's how other people can come and establish these huge businesses, and that are successful businesses, while we are in poverty, while we are dropping out of school, while we are dying with all these illnesses, and we are landless and we are
Hmm.
dependent and all of that. There are people that are benefiting from us losing our way. So let's get back to our way. And I am strongly urging that you stay the course. Don't get discouraged and don't get distracted. because there will be people that will come in to do exactly that. That has been the strategy that has been used against us for generations, to break us up, divide and conquer, create problems among us. So the question that I have for this committee is, how are you partnering with other people, other entities that might be thinking along these same lines? How do you get and engage other groups
Well,
to
we hit the ground running with holding hands with every single Garifuna organization that existed, in not just in Belize, but throughout the whole territory. And we got enormous support from outside of Belize, but zero support from inside Belize, which is just a little sad. And it could be attributed to, like you said, maybe not understanding, or maybe thinking that the Wachari Project is the same old type of project that they've done here before. I'm not sure. But that was a big stumbling block for us, where we depended on the what we thought were alliances with other entities in Belize. And they turned into what Emilia was talking about earlier, more like covert operations, where they would attend the meetings but never related it outside. The different organizations would come attend the Wachari webinars or attend the Wachari meetings, and we thought the information was getting out to the community, but it never was. When we finally got out during COVID, we realized that people had never heard of us. Most people didn't know anything about Wachari, so we knew that there was a block somewhere. And giving it to the young people and deciding to go public like this, I think is one of the best things that has happened to the project, because now we don't have to dwell on that. We can just present it to the people, and then the people can choose if this is something that they want, if they see that it's beneficial, and if it is indeed nation building.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as, finding allies, at this point, it's we're all running together. And if we're running for the same thing at the same time, if I look to my right, look to my left, I should see you there. Yeah.
Excellent. I see a question. Which people or organization who are the benefits going from the Garifuna community and culture? And I don't know if any of you want to attempt answering that question, where we talk about the wealth and the money of Garifuna communities leaving Garifuna communities. How can you illustrate that to
It's very
someone
easy.
who might not be? They might think that no, that's not what's happening.
Yeah, but you don't have to. You don't need like a chart and magic marker for that. You just look at what you do when you get paid.
Right.
And that, boom, end the story. When you get paid, where is your expense? Where are you buying things? And what are you buying? The answer is in the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you carry that shopping bag home, how much of what's in that bag was made in Belize? Not even in Guatemala. Remember, Belize doesn't really produce packaged consumer goods or packaged products. We're not real producers. We are consumers. So we're consuming mostly leftover Chinese products, Korean products, and Taiwanese products, and
Mm-hmm.
packaged goods, mostly rejected with old expiry dates and so on. So just look at where your money goes. That alone, the fact that what you're buying was not made in a Garifuna community, and could be, this is the real key, could be made in a Garifuna community. When you buy a loaf of bread, when you buy your produce, anything that could be made in a Garifuna community that you're buying from China, that's the proof right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep. And so another person that's commenting talked about the fact that it's killing us, literally and figuratively, that we are buying from others and we are not producing for ourselves. And it's not like there isn't a market for the things that we have to produce, because there certainly is. And I could imagine that there are persons out there saying, well, whose fault is it? because that we tend to go into that mode as well.
Mm.
It's whose fault, who caused this to happen. Now, I'm not gonna go on a blame game frenzy. However, it is important, if we're going to tackle something, we have to analyze what's at the root of it. How did we get to this point? And then see how then we could fix it. But being in denial about the things that happened that caused us to get to where we are is not going to help us to get back to that, if we don't recognize what happened that got us in the first place to walk away from the farm. What got
Right.
us to thinking that the farm was not the right place for us to be, was not the most fashionable place for us to be? What made us start to look down our noses at anybody that went to the farm? How did the farm become something that was filthy and was just for the poor or the
Yeah.
mapensili? You understand? How did that happen? How did that happen when this was the thing that fed all of us? The ones that went to school and the one that didn't go to school were still fed from the same farm. So how did we get to that? We have to look at that and be honest about it too.
Well, blaming each other has become culture to us. And if anyone who doesn't understand that will get vexed with me because of that statement. But blaming people for things will not work. We always pointing fingers. I don't have time for that kind of thing. That's why when someone comes to me, I don't need to hear the full extent of your problem. I want to know what you're willing to do to fix it like now. We are aware of the situation in Belize. And that's why if Marley fails, I fail, Aoife fails, everybody fails.
Everybody
That
feels.
one person. So we need to empower Marley. We need to empower everybody that has this kind of mindset to to build something from scratch
Yeah.
and let it be known that it's available for sale. And that's why in one of the meetings we mentioned about doing the research in the different communities. Why would, if Aoife lives in Hopkins, why would she leave from Hopkins to go to Dangriga? Let's make a list of the things that she would buy. Do we have the natural resources in order to make this product and sell it to Aoife and her community? And the same thing with Dangriga. Why would you leave to go to Chetomal or Belize City to shop? What can we produce that would be on your list, on that list? So these are the things that we can solve our problems, by the way. So when we go and look out for help in certain kind of ways, even if they help us in some fashion, we still need to be the ones to navigate that help, to facilitate the changes that we want to see. Because we have been trying the same thing over and over and it hasn't been working, and that is foolish in my eyes, in my opinion. And I don't apologize for things like that because we are too apologetic in our culture. I don't know when that started, but many people are looking at me because I am being realistic when it comes to what we are practicing, that these things are garbage and they do not belong in our communities. So we need to rebuild the mind. We need to rebuild the mind of every person, even to the children that we think don't know better. But they are how do you call it? Children are aspiring adults and they need to be taught well and treated like adults in certain
Mhm.
situations. We cannot be arrogant and say that they should be learning this at this age and they shouldn't be doing this and doing that. I mean, you have to be an example and you need to find a way to get that message across to them. And the earlier they're aware of it, the sooner they can start. We cannot be investing negative adult mindset in children because they are the future, but the future starts now.
Mhm.
And so Wachari is a very big step and one of the ways forward. And Wachari is not just the organization, it's every person in the country, every Garifuna person in the communities that are ready to make the next step forward.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
There are several interesting, thanks for that, Emilio. Because we definitely have to get into a re-education, a reprogramming,
Mm.
because this didn't happen by accident, right? We didn't get like this just like that. and it did not
We
happen
need to
by
do our
accident.
unlearning and learn new things.
This is what
Yes,
Unlearning
Marley.
and learn some new things.
unlearn unlearn the lies and unlearn. They actually break the colonial chains from our minds, essentially, because we can say yes, we did not, we were not shackled as a people. Garinago, we were not shackled, so we can knock our chest and say we were not shackled physically, maybe, but mentally, definitely. Or else we wouldn't even be. This wouldn't be happening. We will have to have a Wachari Nation Building effort, because we would be farming and we would be wealthy and we wouldn't be having to talk about why it is that we don't have our lands anymore. So there was a
Mhm.
comment about the Carib Reserve and how we got to where, for example, the Chinese community, which operates as a community, as we well know, they operate as a
Yep.
community using the very way we operated as a community. They came with that, but we also came with it and then lost it, because we were a very communal people, right? And then we stopped being that. And so that's how we've been left behind. That is how other people can come and excel at our expense, because we also maybe fund their business, support their businesses, and we would do that while we undermine each other. Our own businesses, we undermine our own businesses, and then we gladly support others businesses. You
But that's
see?
exactly how they want us, Aoife. It's a setup. That's exactly how they want us. And every instrument is set up so that we function thusly. They want us to not farm. Remember, the contracts were taken away from us. We received the land through all these arrangements, and then all of the farming contracts were taken away. That was the first one. And then after that, the farming year, the educational year was changed. And all the educators on this platform know that. So that the children can no longer go to Lidice or to go farm with the parents. It wasn't in the farming schedule. So there were setups done, and then the monies, the funding that's made available for relief for farmers was taken away. You had to jump through all of these hoops or belong to a crooked NGO. So there was a lot of little landmines, maybe not little, but big ones along the
Mm-hmm.
way. So our people have been continually set up. I'm not saying that we're all innocent, but when someone keeps beating at you and beating at you and beating at you, it doesn't matter how strong you are, eventually you do collapse. And I think that happened to a lot of us, who had land. You try to farm it, you lose the contract, you try to do this, you try to keep it, and then you end up having to move to the city so that you can get a job, so that you can pay money, so that your land can be maintained. And the whole thing, we de-indigenize ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there are a lot of variables that contributed to our de-indigenization and our
Mm-hmm.
separation from the land.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is, yes, the solution, let's just return to it. Understanding that, yeah, we've had the chips lined up against us, but now we have each other. Now we
Yes.
have a plan. Now we have a mission. Now we have help. All right. We have
Mm-hmm.
foresight. We got this show. We have so many resources now
Yeah.
that we can go forward. I agree with you, Aoife. I'm not trying to stick the head in the ground like the ostrich and forget about how things got tarnished. I think all of that needs to be explored um, in due time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be good to have those people come out, because if it only bothers me, if I'm the only one who noticed it, then it's not worthy of discussion. I'd like to know if any other organizations have had that problem, or any other Garifuna initiatives in Belize have had that problem, where there's not only no support, but um, outright uh, bashing
Mm-hmm.
of your efforts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is why I say that it's important for us to find the source of the problem, because uh to me, whenever people tell us, well, that's the past and we shouldn't be focused on the past, it's like, you get a rush when you consume butter. But then, and you know this, right? You know this, that you get a rash when you consume butter. But then you're gonna put a cream on the rash and still continue consuming butter.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly butter is not good for you, or else you wouldn't have a rash.
Mm-hmm.
But then you keep putting something on the surface to make things appear as if though they're okay when they're not, right? Now you have to get to the root of the problem. You're not gonna stop having the rash if you don't stop consuming the butter. And you're not gonna recognize what's causing the rash if you're not paying attention. If you're gonna be in illusion over, well, what's causing the rash in the first place. You can't just be focusing on, okay, so what's the cream that can get rid of the rash? We need to
Okay,
look at what's causing the rash.
what's
So
the
we don't,
rash then?
huh?
What's causing the rash then?
What's causing it? Get to the bottom of what's causing it, because if you get to the bottom of what's causing it, then you can eliminate the true problem. You don't then just deal with symptoms. So that's my emphasis on finding out the source of the problem,
Okay. Well, I
right?
definitely don't think that Wachari is a remedy that addresses only symptoms. On that note, I think we're addressing the whole illness. But I totally agree with you in that there are elements that make the healing a lot more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And that part really has to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And but it seems to be a pandemic, throughout Belize. I don't know about the rest of Central America, but the secretiveness of Garifuna projects, this need to not talk about the progress that we're making, the way we ignore each other. We don't give each other kudos, no attaboys, no great way to go. The only time anyone has ever said anything about Wachari, any of these leaders, about Wachari on Facebook, has been very, very negative stuff. So if you notice, we stopped talking about Wachari on Facebook. We have a closed group. We took ourselves out of the firing line because it was all this slander, and a lot of negative talk from Garifuna people that I used to respect. So, I have a hard time understanding it. And maybe it's me that I just don't want to exert the energy to try and figure it out. But that's not to say that I don't recognize it as a serious cancer amongst our people. Because if this is the way you treat people who come and help you, your own people to come and help you, who can help you?
Mm-hmm.
Who can help you? We're all Wagia, we're all Garinago who have returned. Lysurnians, we returned with our resources and our wealth and our connections to help, to do something. Because we don't want to live in poverty. We don't have to. And the reason most of us go back is because of what any Lysurnian experiences here. Coming back home is not a pleasant experience when you have everybody slandering you, figuring out how to steal your money, or telling lies about you, or bashing every single project you've had, or telling you that you're not really Garifuna because you don't speak Garifuna. But it's like all of this crap.
Mm-hmm.
They're all like inherent cancers in our nation building. And
Yeah,
and
so
they're serious hindrances.
and yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And we need to tackle them. It's always uncomfortable, right? It's unpleasant. Nobody
Very
likes
uncomfortable, yeah.
this unpleasantness. But
Mhm.
that's how we're going to, that's how we're going to get the healing. That's how we're going to make the progress. Because again, even looking at it from the medical standpoint, if you are in denial about your illness, you're not going to get better. You're not going to get better. So we definitely have to be honest about these unpleasant things that have occurred, because we simply do not live anymore according to our traditional mandate and mantra of Albon Amuno, I for you, you for me, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't live reciprocity anymore,
Anymore.
this is why we are where we are. So it's pretty simple. Let's get back to reciprocity.
Yeah.
Huh? Let's get back to I for you and you for me. For we it's not, and we being for we doesn't mean that we're against anybody else. It's just let's be for we, because people know the benefit of us being for them. They've gained year in, year out. They've gained, they continue to gain from us being in support of them. And all we are doing now, and all we need to be doing now, is support each other more,
Yeah.
because they're
You're
supporting
right,
each other.
Ifa.
They're
Right.
supporting each other. So why
Yeah,
don't we do the same thing and support each
Right.
other? That's what we used to do. So let's do
Right.
that.
Yep. That's what Chari.
yeah,
That's the it.
you're
That's
right.
it.
That's what
Yep.
Wachari is all about. The
Yep.
Wagia Foundation and the
The
Wachari
Wachari
Project.
Project. Yep.
That's what we are all about. And I'm urging others to join in, like at least to come and see for yourself what's really taking place, especially in the webinars. That's a good
Yeah.
form of introduction for you to listen in. You don't need to say anything or put anything in the chat. Listen in, and then you can see for yourself that this worth a try for the Garifuna Nation. Nation
Right.
building is not easy, right?
No.
Like
Yeah.
Doc said and Emilia said, people do negative things, say negative things, and stuff. You will experience that, but the main thing is move forward. You know what you're doing is right. It's for a nation. It's not for yourself. It's not for your personal gain. It's for the entire nation. So just keep pushing at it. Just keep pushing. Um, the Garifuna, the steering committee, sorry, is more focused on finding solutions and
Right.
bringing answers to your ideas. That's what the steering committee is mostly about. So whatever idea you have, you can bring it to the steering committee. We look at it collectively, and if we need to vote on whatever, we do a vote, and we will find solution. We'll help you find solution to make sure your ideas comes to light. So that's why I'm real proud to be a part of a steering committee. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I am proud of you all too. And you've engaged, I mean, you've stirred up quite a discussion. Definitely a lot of positive comments, very meaningful feedback coming from the audience. So I am sure that people will continue to tune in. Like I said, I anticipate that tomorrow's webinar will be packed. A lot of people are interested now. I think it was just a matter of time for people to know. And once people got to know, then they will just join in, because sometimes that's all it takes. We might think that we are the only one thinking something until we share it. Until we share it, and then we see people nodding like, yeah, I was thinking that too, but I thought I was the only one thinking. So it's good that we are sharing with each other. We are making the spaces for us to discuss with each other the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we have to get down and dirty to see the fruits of our work, our labor in the near future. And I mean, I think about even when we want to say, we don't want to talk so much about problems or dwell on the negative. I think about composting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Composting isn't the most pleasant situation, when the peelings and all they're rotting, and then there are all the worms and all of that. It doesn't smell good, it doesn't look good. But what it creates, though, is the fertile environment.
Result.
It provides the nutrients for the plant to grow bigger, greener, redder, juicier. You
Right.
know, just
Res- Result
it,
in licking the finger.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. So we figure out how to turn some of what might appear to be negative, and once we accept the duality of life, that the good come with the bad, and we address where the issues are and turn that into compost, man,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
there can only be abundance. There can only be abundance. But we have to stay with that consciousness that at the end of the day, we're on this one earth together. And why not make this experience while we're here the most meaningful, most abundant, most powerful, most positive experience it could be. And we can do that together,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think it's the best way to end off tonight. Want to remind our viewers, listeners about making sure that they visit Wachari Organic Agricultural Association page on Facebook. And once you join that page, visit that page, you're going to have access to the link to be a part of the Wachari Nation webinar on Tuesdays, right? What time does it begin? What
Six
time does it?
thirty.
At
Six
6:30
thirty.
Belize time,
Release
our
time.
time, right? Belize
Right.
time. And you can join those webinars every Tuesday. Yes?
Yes,
Every
Yes, every
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
every Tuesday.
6:30.
Yeah.
And then, so this is, we just started the Wachari Nation Building link up. Are we linking up every week too? Is that the plan?
Yes. Yes. Well,
Great.
Mondays.
is that what the people want? Every
Well,
Monday, I'll be here.
all right. Excellent. So I know that people will be looking for, like I said, the chat is packed, lots of comments, but our time is up. I told you all, 2 hours will fly by in no
Yes.
time. 2 hours will go in 2 minutes, and the 2 hours have gone just like that. This has been a very rich discussion,
Thank
and I want to thank all of the people that have been, this panel is, like I said it from the beginning, very powerful panel, very meaningful panel, and we applaud you for
thank you.
taking up this challenge and this
Thank
initiative
you.
and doing what you're doing. And I think it's attracting a lot of people. We have a lot of viewers, a lot of comments. So we definitely got to keep the momentum going. Can't
Yeah.
give up. Can't give up at all.
We're
So
in it for the long haul.
that's
Thank
right.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you,
right.
Aoife.
Thank you,
Yes. Uot
Ifa.
ni
Thank
katwag.
you.
Uot ni
Yeah.
katwag.
Thank
Ayo,
you.
ayo.
Thank you.
Ayo.
Ayo.
Ayo. And thank you to everyone that tuned in.
Neighbor. Ayo.
Ayo.
Yeah.
Ayo.
Be lagoon home.
Sir, me.